Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Mraz. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs in dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Lee Wilson, Coach Lee Wilson. He's a relationship expert with more than 2 decades of experience as a dating coach and a founder of Love Dynamics. Lee has lectured at several universities, including Pepperdine University. He attended Freed-Hardeman University, Trevecca Nazarene University. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
All right. And holds a diploma in marriage and family counseling. Coach Lee, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you?
I'm great, Will. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So, Coach Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself. What was that journey like to get here to today? What was it that you saw in the marketplace that needed Lee Wilson?
Well, I was working for a marriage enrichment organization, a nonprofit that primarily worked with marriages that were in crisis, and were just not going to make it without some kind of help. And
Mhm.
this organization was really good at helping them. And I started a dating website, and people on the dating website, because I was the founder, they knew who I was and they knew that I worked for that organization. So they would send questions about their dating relationships. And this was back in like 2003, 2004. And I would do my best to answer. And by 2007 or 8, I was consulting with a lot of people on their dating relationships. So fast forward to about 2016, and I had left that organization with its founder, and we had started an organization, and I was going out on my own in about 2016, 2017. And I decided I'd put up a couple videos on YouTube, and I thought, I might be able to do some extra coaching, earn a little extra money. And I had very low goals. I honestly just thought maybe I can make 500 extra bucks a month. Within 3 months, I was stopping everything else and doing that full time because I had several videos that took off on me and got over 1 million views. And then Cosmopolitan magazine wanted to interview me. And from there, it's been mostly an ascension. It's been a positive thing. And now it's a business. I have lots of people around me, employees now. We're up to like somewhere around 12, 11 or 12 people. And it's been a great thing. And I think that a lot of people have been able to be helped just from my experiences and observations. It's not that I'm just a super genius, it's that I've seen a lot. So it's been a positive experience. And I think that lots of people have been helped just from the observations that I've had over 2 decades.
Wow. And it's funny, and we're talking with Coach Lee Wilson, and with couples these days, and again, I'm going by what I see online, what I'm reading. Has the dynamic changed from when you were younger, 2003, 2004, 2005, where it seems like more and more couples are in competition with each other? This is what I'm reading, where, a woman now has the status, she's going to college, she's making a lot more money. A man has to equal her or be better. Am I saying that right? That it seems like the couples are more into competition than working together as one?
I think so. And that's a primary problem in marriages that we don't really want to talk about today. It's not really politically correct. Sometimes it might even come across to some people as, oh, you're a misogynist, you're a sexist. But the traditional way that things were done, there was a homemaker, someone who made the home a great place for the two of them and for their family. And there was the other person who was the breadwinner who would fund everything. And it made for a great team. Nowadays, what I see a lot in the marriages that end up at the divorce attorney's office is that they are both career focused on their own careers and they're going different directions. All that energy day after day to something different from, contributing to the other person. And so then they get home and here are the scraps. Here is what I have left at the end of my exhausting day. And no one is there to make the home a great place for the two of them. They kind of have to take care of the house, the home by community. They have to do Grubhub or whatever to get the food there. And even though it can work, it does work with some people, there are a lot of people that I speak to where I will be in a conversation and I will turn to the wife and both of them have been describing arguments, frustration, resentment, anxiety. And I'll just look at her and I'll say, do you want to quit your job? And the reaction is so often she will start sobbing and she will just say, I do. I want to make this home better for myself, but also for my husband. But I'm tired and I'm stressed out. And, men and women are different. And the more that we fight that as a world and as a society, it is to our detriment because it is obvious. It does not take a genius to look at a man and look at a woman and say, these are two different beings with different strengths and different weaknesses. And we can be great teammates. And, the best way that I have seen it work is the traditional model. And I'm not saying that, women are incapable. I'm certainly not saying that at all. I am saying, though, that when you're on a team, that you oftentimes need to play to your strengths and to the strengths of the other person and the weaknesses that you have and the weaknesses of the other person. And that we have good psychological data, even though it's not talked about because it's not politically correct, but that shows that it works really well when you have a man as a primary breadwinner and a woman who is a homemaker for the two of them, and that they operate as a team that way. That doesn't work for everybody. And some people are just going to be against that and not like that. But if you just want to give yourself the best chance at having a peaceful, long, permanent type of relationship, at least give that a thought. At least give it a try. Because especially, I spoke to a woman recently, and she is in a very high pressure job. She's a single mom. Her husband left her several years ago. She's trying to find a man. She wants a husband. And she keeps running into these guys who are telling her they want an equal contributor financially. And so she has the kids that are already, that's a full-time job right there.
Yeah.
And she's working full time. And she just said, but I don't know when they expect that I'm going to have any time for them if I'm a full-time mom and I have a full-time career. And then they're going to have a full-time career. It's like, when do we actually get to be together as a couple? And that's a legitimate question, but she is busting it. She's trying to prove that she is an equal contributor financially. But I asked her, I said, are you tired? And she said, like you would not believe. And so, again, I just say to people that if you're in a position where you can have a single income home and you have very clearly defined roles, that it actually is easier than if it's all just kind of out in the air where who's going to do this, who's going to do that, it's your turn to do this, it's your turn to do that. And it can cause resentment, it can cause anger, and it can cause people to think, well, you're just seeing this is transactional and things like that. But if you just have it to where we have understood expectations, I'm going to take care of this and you take care of that. I'll stay in my lane and you stay in yours. It is not about oppression. It's not about tradition. It's just about making basically a team that functions well, because I don't need to be doing everything and she doesn't need to be doing everything. It'd be great if I had my area and she had her area and I didn't, get in her area and get over her shoulder and tell her how to do things and she didn't do the same thing with me. And then when we were done, we just got to be together. I know that's not possible for everybody, but I used to think differently. I used to be kind of non-traditional, so to speak, in that aspect. But years of just looking at data and just observing people and the situations, that's one of the conclusions that I've come to.
And we're talking with Lee Wilson, Coach Lee Wilson, and and I see that online, that when women want to get married, they're looking for a partner. I don't hear the word husband anymore. And on the man side, I say I'm looking for a wife, blah, blah, stay at home wife. But if she wants to work, that's up to her. But if I could provide, is the provider mentality for a man, is that waning? Is that, now they're looking for 50-50? Because now that's a new buzzword I'm hearing. 50-50 on the man side. Women says, oh, no, I don't do that. If I'm marry you, I'll take care of the household, but no 50-50. I'm hearing that now. 50-50 for the man's side, no 50-50 for the woman's side.
Right.
Where's the middle ground, if there is one?
Yeah, and as a man, I can speak for men. I'm not afraid to stick up for men because they do get the short end of the stick in some areas, just like
Yeah.
I'm sure that women think they get the short end of the stick in some areas. But it does seem that for women, it's often okay when men are expected to have traditional roles. Most women would expect that the man would be a provider. I recently spoke with one where they were independently wealthy. It was her money, and yet she wanted him to have a job to be respectable so that the family would respect him. And that's not the case if you flip it around. And
Right.
I saw recently there was a video I saw where they were asking these women, do you expect a man to open the door for you and things like that? And they said, that's a must. That is a non-negotiable. And I remember thinking, can you think of anything where a man would say, a woman must do this for me? This is non-negotiable. Usually there's going to be a really negative reaction to him if he says that,
Oh,
if he is
100%.
demanding of
Right.
anything out of her. And so I think that some of this is that men are going to have to step up and take a stand and be strong and say, look, if you want me to do things that are traditionally masculine, if at 2 a.m. there's a crash downstairs, who goes to check on it? Who goes and possibly is risking his life? It's the man. That's what it's always expected to be. And sure, are there exceptions? 1 out of 100, maybe it's a woman. Most of the time, it's a man. Even if the woman is a feminist, the man's going to go when there's danger and check on it. So if he's supposed to do the traditional things that even require risking his life, if he's going to do the traditional things like opening the door where he's putting her on a pedestal and doing this nice thing for her, why can't he say, I want you to do some traditional things. I want you to cook for me. And to say that's a non-negotiable. Because if he's willing to risk his life, that's really a small thing to ask to say, could you cook for me? Could you be the primary cook of this house? Could you clean my house? I mean, these are reasonable things. If he's providing the financial support, the money, and he's willing to risk his life in the middle of the night, then it's not asking too much to say, hey, I'll do that. Sure, that's what men traditionally do, and you expect that out of me. So I expect something traditional out of you. I expect you to cook and clean for me. And that's what your role is in this. Maybe that's kind of how you pay rent, especially if I'm the provider. That's how you chip in on that. Pay rent's not the right term, but you know what I mean there. And I
Yeah.
think that men, because we love women, we have kind of been willing to accept some double standards and some mistreatment, even expectations that could not be reversed. And I think you're just going to have some men who are willing to take a stand and say, this is what I want. And if I don't get my toys, if I don't get the toy that I want, I'm going to take my toys and go home. That's the phrase I'm looking for. That if I don't get
Yeah.
what I want, I'm going to take my toys and go home. Because sometimes you have to do that. Because if you realize that what we have right now is not going to make it long term because it's not sustainable, and for a lot of men, feeling like that they can have traditional roles imposed on them and traditional expectations imposed on them, but they can't
Right.
expect that out of the woman, that's probably not going to last long term. He's going to start resenting her. He's going to feel that he is treated as less than. He's going to feel like he's not valued as much. And eventually he's probably just going to leave. And so you have to know that at this point, I realize this won't make it long term. So either we do this or I'm out now. And of course, if you're
Right.
married, it's different. You're going to have to put in a lot more work because you have made a vow and because a lot of times there's children, there's assets, there's more ropes of commitment. And so that can be more difficult. But if one of the people in the relationship can have expectations of gender roles on the other, then it's fair that the other can have the same.
This is a subject that people want to talk about, especially on the men's side. Like some of the guys I've known or I know, whether they're in their 50s or 60s or even their 20s and 30s, and it seems like especially the younger men are scared to approach this type of subject, the traditional values that they want and they want for themselves and want for their woman. It seems like that's such a touchy subject. So when you work with your clients, the couples, how do you approach that subject when someone, let's say the man wants to be traditional but he wants his woman also to be traditional, but the woman wants, well, I want him to do this but I want to be free to do other stuff. Again, how does, when you do your coaching, how does that come into play? I mean, because that makes it, to me, makes it more difficult for you, because now you got to listen to both sides and determine, okay, this is the best course of action. Tell me if I'm in the ballpark.
Well, I do a lot of coaching for guys on masculinity. As a matter of fact, I have a course
Okay.
called Masculine Destiny.
Okay.
That course is at masculinedestiny.com. And so when I talk to a lot of guys, sometimes I have to say there is no alpha male. You're either a man or you're not. You've got to be a man. And I know that that's politically incorrect based on whose terminology. I don't care. I don't care if it's politically incorrect. It's real. And so one of the things I would say, if I were in a relationship like that, and she was sitting there saying, I expect you to do this because that's what a man's supposed to do, but you can't tell me to do something because you think a woman's supposed to do it, I would say, I don't do double standards. And I
Mm.
would be willing to walk away. It's really that simple. And most men, because they have it within themselves that they're willing to protect a woman, willing to sacrifice even their lives for a woman, they will sacrifice mistreatment. They will tolerate it. They will endure it out of that sacrificial love. It's misplaced, it's warped in that situation, but that's what happens. And you have to be able to recognize that you're doing that. And you have to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do it, which is a masculine thing to do, to have standards. And a lot of men today are weaker than men used to be.
Yeah.
You've heard that phrase, strong
Yep.
men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard
Yep.
times create strong men. I think we're in the weak men part of that. We might be coming out of it. I'm not sure, but I think we could be in it. And a lot of men are just going to have to say, I may have a negative consequence of this, but I'm going to have to fulfill my purpose in life and be a man and say, no, I'm not going to be bossed around by you. I'm not going to have these expectations on me that because I'm a man, I have to do this, but I can't have any expectations on you doing something as a woman. That he just says, enough. I'm not going to do the double standards. You can hit the road if you don't like it. And a lot of men don't have the courage to do that. And they need to step up and they need to be men and have that courage and just take that stand.
And I was going to say something about that because is it because the men don't want to lose what they think might be a good woman, or they just afraid that they might not get anyone else after that? Because I've seen where, or and I read where men, they tolerate, some of the BS that some women might put on them, but they don't want to leave because they might not find anyone else, or they think this is the end all to be all woman. Are you finding that too in your coaching and just everyday life as a as a coach?
Yeah, I am. I am. A lot of men operate from scarcity and they don't know, or at least they don't believe in themselves that they can be passively attractive. They think that they have to do something to earn her love or to bribe her or do her enough favors or make her life good enough that she will want to stay with them. They don't believe that they can just say, "Here I am," and be attractive. And so that's what it often takes is that the man has to say, it's not going to work. If I cannot just be and be attractive, if I cannot just be passively attractive, this will not work long term because I cannot keep bribing and doing all these favors for you and allowing double standards, trying to earn your love because it will not work. It just sets up a dynamic to where she sees him as beneath her, or else he would not be acting that way. And so when
Yeah.
she sees her, or I'm sorry, when she sees him as beneath her, then she will lose attraction for him because she wants to be with somebody who's at least eye to eye with her, or maybe even above her in terms of how she perceives his value. But if he treats her like a goddess, she will see him as her servant. And so it will become out of balance. She will lose attraction for him. And that's probably happened to a lot of guys. And so they will try to turn the knob up a little more. I'll be even better to this one. I'll make her so happy. I'll spend so much on her. I'll do so much work for her that she will love her life and she will stay with me because of that. But it's kind of like when you give someone a gift. If you and I were out somewhere and a woman came over who you were not physically attracted to, I was not physically attracted to, she was not physically attractive, and she gave us gifts and she said, there's more where that came from. We would like the gifts. This is great. Wow, it's a new camera. Wow, it's a new golf club. Whatever it is, we might like the gift. That doesn't mean we're attracted to her. And
Right.
that's where a lot of men they mix up being a provider and they start to see themselves as they're the chief of happiness and that they're going to make her happy by gifts. And that's going to make her love him, want to be with him. Well, no, you just set up a precedent that how you keep this woman is by bribing her with gifts. And that's not going to work long term. She will leave you. And so you want to find a good woman who, first of all, does not have double standards, but also who you can be passive with and she will still be attracted to you. And what I mean by passive is that you're not having to earn her attraction. You're not having to fight for her to love you.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Lee. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go, please.
Well, but it's that You can do the same things that she does. You can just be yourself. Sometimes you're going to feel like you want to be quiet. I don't want to go out tonight. Or sometimes maybe money's going to be tight. If you are with someone who loses interest in you in those situations, then the writing's on the wall. And even though it's difficult, even though it's tough, you've got to be willing to walk away or let the relationship go if that's the case. You've got to be willing to stand up for yourself, not because you're putting yourself above the other person, but just because you know it won't work out long term.
And I see a lot of these guys with the new term simps and all that. And I tell them, 'cause I'm the older guy in the group. I'm like, dude, you gotta have your boundaries. You gotta have your standards. You can't let anyone cross it, whether it's a close friend for 40 years, 20 years, whatever. You gotta have your boundaries. What do you think about that? Like setting the boundaries, not having anyone cross it, or your preferences.
Well,
I
I
know I
I
went
do
off on a
agree.
tangent. Sorry about that.
That's great. I do agree. And a lot of this is that sometimes this is kind of what I would consider a very advanced lesson in masculinity. Sometimes you're going to be in a situation where being respected is more important than being loved. For example, my role as a husband, as a father, first is protector, second is provider, in my opinion.
Right.
And there are times when I'm not as concerned about someone liking me as I am them knowing if I have to, I will end you to protect my wife and kids.
Right.
And so being respected in those moments, even if they don't like you, is more important. And you have to know when those moments are because respect is the most valuable thing that a man can hold. It's even more important than love. And a woman can't be attracted to you if she does not respect you. And so if you behave in your life in a strong, confident way, where you are willing to do the tough things, you're willing to be unliked sometimes, but you put respect at the first and foremost place, you will get love and you will be able to give love. But it has to be with that respect there because if she does not respect you, she will not trust your ability to protect her. She will not feel safe with you because she respects a man who's a protector, who's strong. That is what men have to offer in terms of attractiveness, strength, and just even though it's again it's something maybe is not politically correct, but men are attracted to that softness, that warmth of women, and women are attracted to strength in all areas: physical strength, mental strength, and emotional strength. A lot of men that I talk to, a lot of young men, they do not manage their emotions well. They cry a lot. They have anxiety just with life in general and things like that, and I'm not getting onto them or kicking them while they're down, but I'm saying that is something. Sometimes you have to project it. Sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. Sometimes you have to choose. This may cost me. I'm going to do it anyway. And sometimes you just have to work at it for a long time. And I'm certainly here to help with that. And there are other people who can help with that. But you have to decide I will have respect. I will earn it. I will deserve it. But I will insist on that. And I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to be violent or, you know, act like a monster to get it from my wife at all. But I am going to expect it, and I'm going to do things that deserve it. When I don't get respect, I am going to point it out. Just like when I said earlier, I would say I don't do double standards. If a woman is being disrespectful to her man, he is fine and within his rights, within his with his own boundaries, within her boundaries to say, I don't, I'm not going to speak to you like this when you're yelling at me. We're not going to talk about this if you're going to yell. Things like that. Those are small things. But if a man is willing to have those standards and willing to walk away if he's going to be mistreated, and of course, like I said, with marriage, it's a different matter. You're going to have to put more into it, but I'm talking about before you actually marry the person. If she knows you're willing to walk away if she's disrespectful, that is something that you expect from her, just like she has expectations of you, then that is when she can love you, she can treat you well, and she knows she's dealing with a strong man. And sometimes women will test that without even knowing. And again, you don't act like some growling bear or some monster, but you do have those standards. You calmly say, I'm not going to talk to you about this if you're yelling at me, or
Right.
I don't do double standards. And if she continues on as though you didn't say it, you leave. You just walk out. A lot of men don't have the balls to do that because, like you said, they are operating from a scarcity mindset. They think that they have to just be this perfect little boy who obeys, who never rattles the cage, who never knocks over some of the glasses in the china shop, and that's how they're going to get her to like him. That's not how it's going to work. She's looking for strength. She's looking for a man who's stronger than her. That's kind of the whole point. Physically, even in terms of his emotions and things like that, we have different strengths and weaknesses. She is not looking for her equal. She's looking
Right.
for someone who's stronger than her. She's looking for a man, and you just need to show her that's me. And I want to get along. I want to love you. I want to be good to you. I want to provide for you. I want to treat you like a princess, like my queen. But if you don't treat me like your king, I'm not going to do it. And if a man will just do that, first of all, he's going to get rid of the women who don't have the maturity, who don't have the introspection, and who don't have the empathy to be able to do that. He's going to get rid of them so he doesn't have to deal with them. And the woman who sticks around is going to be the one who recognizes that this is a valuable thing, that masculinity is not toxic. It's valuable, and the world desperately needs it right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Lee, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. This was, to me, eye-opening, and I definitely want to have you back on. And before I let you go, tell me a little bit more about the website, anything else you want to promote or talk about?
Yeah, so masculinedestiny.com is my course for men on being successful with women. I also have the emergency breakup kit. It's at myexbackcoach.com, and you'll see it there, myexbackcoach.com.
Mhm.
And you can go there. And of course, I'm on YouTube. I have a channel there. If you type in Coach Lee, you'll find me there.
All right, sounds good. And before I let you go, a last word about dating and an opinion you want to share.
So the most important thing you need to look for in a potential partner is empathy. Are they able to look at you and feel something that they can give you, that they can provide for you, that is dependent on your situation? And I didn't word that very well, but basically it's where they can look at you and they can say, how can I be helpful in this situation? And they can also read the room with you. They're not going to just get on your nerves for no reason. They're not going to act in a way that hurts your feelings without actually feeling guilty about it. Things that used to be basic. And if you can get that in a partner where they are empathetic, they don't see you as beneath them, but they see you as someone who deserves their love and even deserves their service. We're all serving each other. And that's what the best relationships do, is they serve each other in the way that they are best prepared to do that by the creator. And so for a man, the best way I can serve my wife as a man is to be her protector and her provider. I play to my strengths. And the best way that she can serve me as a woman is to provide that warmth, that nurturing, which does involve being a homemaker. And obviously, not everyone can do that. Not everyone can live off a single income. But if you can, and if you're willing to make some sacrifices to do that, you'll most likely find that you actually like it a lot.
Yeah. Well, again, Lee, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I love that last word, and I definitely want to have you back on. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, Will. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Bye bye.